really, there's one, if I could narrow it down to one reason why a veteran would even want their C file, their claims file, is because you're fighting appeals specifically. Pretty much what happens when a veteran is denied, they're going to submit a higher level review or supplemental claim. Very rarely will they go to the board, what a lot of people do. It's definitely not the majority. However, if you don't have your C file, literally you're fighting blind. If someone told you to do a boxing match, except for you had to put a blindfold on and then you had to box, some boxer who's been boxing for 20 years, you're not going to win that fight. That's essentially what submitting an appeal without your claims file is, because you don't know what the VA is looking at. You don't know what the VA is missing unless you have it yourself. I can't tell you how many times people say, I don't have the in-service event, but I thought I went to, I saw the doc when I was in service. They request their C file and they see, hey, in 2006, I went to go see, during my post-deployment health assessment, I had a complaint about migraines. Boom, it's there. All of a sudden you have the in-service event and you can point to it. You can show the VA. That is going to be a game changer for your claim. So most people who want a C file are going to be for appeals. Stop fighting blind. It's just not, it's kind of like going to court without evidence is what submitting an appeal is without your C file. You're never going to do it. Now, can you submit an appeal without your C file? Absolutely. It's not a requirement. However, having your evidence in front of you is going to set you up for success generally. The second thing is, and I'm glad you brought that up, Jason, is back pay. And this is one of the main reasons I'm a big fan of accredited attorneys as well, because one of their, not only do they win appeals for you, they also look at your entire C file. That's an advantage of a lawyer and a disadvantage of a claims company. The claims company, as you state, Jason, will figure you out. A lawyer will also figure you out. They'll look at your appeals and they'll have your C file and say, hey, in 1984, this should have happened. It didn't. And if that can rate back pay, I've seen back pay personally. I've seen a check for a direct deposit amount of $173,000. That's the highest that I've seen. But I've heard some enormous, like $600,000 back pay. Can you imagine getting a check for just $100,000? Right, just 50. We'll just say 50. Imagine getting a $50,000 check. You're already 100% P&T. You had your C file. You saw something. You talked to a accredited lawyer, and now you have $50,000 in your account, which, by the way, is not taxable. You can go ahead and do whatever you want. Going back to a previous video that Jason and I did, especially with David Piatek, right? Can veterans that are 100% actually use that back pay for something good? And I'll go ahead and leave that live below for you if you're in that sphere of, hey, I don't want to live paycheck to paycheck. But back on the C file route, man, it's absolutely critical. And then I'll go ahead and talk about my personal story as well. So I did not request my C file until I was 100% P&T. That's the second person that would want to request their C file. So one, you're fighting appeals. Two, you're 100% P&T, request your C file, save it, store it, do whatever. Don't touch it until you have to. You're probably not going to, but it's good to have. And the reason is because just in case for me, and I have some appeals, well, I have some denied claims that I could appeal. There's really no benefit for me to do it, at least not yet. If that ever changes, I have the C file, I can do it. But for me, Jason, whenever I believe I got 70% out of the gate, maybe 80, I can't really remember, back in 2019. And then I just saw, the VSO was helpful, but not what he had said bothered me. All right. And he was like, hey, you're already 70%. You should be happy with that. And I was like, hey, you're not wrong, but that sounds weird. And so that put me, this is pretty YouTube, pretty me knowing anything. That just put me in a mindset of, hey, let me just look into this. Now, spoiler here, I have a super obsessive personality. Okay. And so when I start something, I am like, if I do something, I am there. I'm 100% there. That's a blessing and a curse, by the way. But for this, it was definitely a blessing because then I found out what 38 CFR was. I watched a few Combat Craig videos, found out what 38 CFR. That led me to a Reddit called Veterans Benefits, found out what the M21 TAC one is, reading that. And a caveat here, in my job in the military for psychological operations, a lot of that is reading policy and authorities and just really bland government policy. It's the worst thing to read ever, but I got really good at reading it, and it's understanding how even how paragraphs are structured within the federal government is just a game changer. So reading M21 just came easy, and that pretty much went down a very obsessive rabbit hole. And I was like, hey, that's not right. Let me go ahead and correct that. And that's what I mean by being educate yourself. I'm not saying you have to read M21 TAC 1. YouTube will do that for you. Okay. Jason and myself, literally everyone else. But that's pretty much what started the YouTube journey. And then eventually I remember commenting on one of your videos, Jason. I was like, hey, I would love to do a video on, I think it was the PLUS Act and the GUARD Act. And we were going to talk about it. And then you had responded and was like, you were like, hey, good idea. Why don't we just do a channel? And I was like, oh, dude, that's a really good idea. So boom, here's Veterans Daily. And that's what we got. But that's really the C file. There are so many things in the C file. So everything we're going to talk about, so rating code sheets, C&P exams, your service treatment records are in the C file. C file takes, the going rate is about 6 to 9 months. It's going to come to you in a CD, which stands for compact disc, which is just hilarious to me. And I remember a meme of Kim Jong-un. This was like, I don't know, 2016-ish time frame. Do you know what memes are, Jason? Is that
pretty funny to you? Yeah.
That was
my birthday really is this month, so.
Oh, right. Okay. But it was a meme of Kim Jong-un holding up a CD. And it was like, with this technology, we'll defeat the United States of America, right? But anyways, it's going to come to you in a CD. It takes 6 to 9 months. And if you request anything within the C file, it's going to be much faster. So if you want your whole C file I would plan for 9 months personally before you can even look at your C file. And yeah, that's the C file, Jason. Did that spark any thoughts for you?
Yeah. So thanks for saying that story. I really appreciate it because it does highlight the fact of being prepared to take on the VA with your claim. And it's much better to do it from a position of power versus a reactionary sort of a way. So do it before you really need it versus, after it's too late. So when you're talking about preparing for an appeal, I'm going to kind of clarify a little bit for folks. Most of us, even me, I do it all the time too. Clay does it. Everybody does it. Most people say appeal. And when we say appeal, we're encapsulating higher level review, supplemental, and the Board of Appeals, right? Really, just the Board of Appeals is an appeal. The other two are decision review options. Okay, so the VA denied you or gave you some sort of an unfavorable sort of a decision, and now you want to either do a decision review, higher level review, or a supplemental claim, or you want to push it straight to the board and have the board look at it as an appeal. So those are your options. Usually when you hear us, anybody pretty much on YouTube saying appeal, we mean kind of any of those options because you can select any one of the three right out the gate. It used to be back in the day, you had to go through the process before you could actually be denied, then finally you could push it to the board. Now you can go straight to the board if you want. Not usually suggested, but you could. Now, with that part out of the way, you have a year from that unfavorable decision, whether it was a low rating or a denial or whatever it was, you have a year to elect that decision review or appeal. Well, like Clay said, if it takes you 9 months to get your C file, you better be Johnny or Janie on the spot and order it. Like as soon as the next day you get that denial or low rating, unfavorable decision results, next day you should be ordering your C file then. It will help you know what the VA had as far as the evidence is concerned. Now, granted, you should know what was submitted. So there's that. But this will give you an opportunity to also read into the C&P exam and see if what kind of things contradicted each other or what have you. And in some cases, if it was a denial, most likely the like 1,000%, pretty close to that anyway, is the C&P examiner saying that it's not service connected for whatever reason. If they say it's service connected, you would be probably most likely service connected. It's just that you don't know what your rating is going to be. So it could be a lower rating than what you expected. In any case, you will see what the VA has on your file. You're going to go through it. And if this all played out correctly, you filed a higher level review. And this is the part that gets a little bit tricky because you don't really know what evidence you have to work with until you get your C file. So if you file a higher level review, right, and you order your C file, right, you have 12 months to file your decision review. So now you get your C file in. Let's say it took 9 months. That means you have 3 months left to file your decision review or appeal. So now you're flipping through everything. And then if you notice, hey, here's that piece that totally whatever changes my rating from a denial to a rating to a service connection, or from a low rating to a, from a 30% to a 50%. Here it is right here, page 74, whatever, right? Now you know exactly where to find it. Makes it super easy because now you know I can file a higher level review, check the box that says that you want an informal conference. You actually have a conversation with somebody. So you could say, look on page 74, or however you can designate wherever that is. Hey, I ordered my C file. I got it. I'm looking in whatever, and in the stack, here it is. It has this on it, whatever. And so this kind of is the evidence that's needed in order to bring us in line with the 50% rating. Just not sure why we're at 30 if I should be at 50. Or I'm not sure why I was denied. It clearly shows here that, I'm service connected because I had a diagnosis and service that somehow you missed, right? I don't care that the doctor is saying that. Maybe I forgot to mention it. Maybe the C&P examiner didn't say I was, but I clearly have medical evidence from my time in service that I didn't mention in my C&P because I figured you guys had it. And, nobody does a C&P exactly perfect. You're going to forget something. You're going to miss something, so it's not unheard of that that's a scenario that wouldn't happen. It definitely could. So you'd be able to point it out to that higher level reviewer and hopefully get them to overturn it. Now, what's the worst case scenario in this? The worst case scenario is I ordered my C file, it didn't show up. And now I'm on month 11 and a half. Oh, damn, I need to file something. And I don't really have time to go run and get more evidence for my supplemental. That's a stressful situation. So I would say, and I say this all the time, and I say it this way because it really is. Treat this like a million or multi-million-dollar deal because it is. If I were in the situation of filing a claim, I get my results back and it's unfavorable for whatever reason, Clay, whatever reason, unfavorable, I'm going to do something, I just don't know what, and I order my C file, cool, I would still go and start building more evidence based on whatever I got in my decision letter, why they denied me. I would start building more evidence on that, order my C file in the meantime. And if that shows up, cool. And if it doesn't show up, I'm still building more evidence because this is just me personally. I would probably never file a higher level review. I would just go straight to supplemental claim. Let me double down on the evidence that you're missing. I know it's already in there, and I'll resubmit that along with with a 4138 explaining that it's on that page in there. And I would go get more evidence, doubling down on whatever that was from my doctor as new evidence. And if I need to write another statement myself, I'll do another statement. If I need another buddy statement, I'll go get another one. And I would file all of that and do that. I would be working on all that while I'm waiting for my C file. And then if I get my C file, cool. I'll be able to just dig through that, and I'd write another 4138 explaining that I ordered my C file, and in my C file it says right here, da 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 da, and I would put that in there too, and then bam, I would submit that. If I got my C file in time, I'd have that extra one in there, and if not, then I would file it like it is, and go from there. Your thoughts, Clay?